Okay guys, welcome to your first lesson. We're going to introduce you to Fusion and its functions today. So hopefully everything is going to work correctly and we'll get started. The way this is going to work, I'm going to do a video on here. I'm going to kind of show you the navigation through Fusion, where the buttons are, where the different, what each button does, and then I'm going to do a drawing and you'll repeat the drawing step by step just like I did, and then I'll give you a blueprint and you'll make that blueprint in Fusion. So what we're going to do today is basically kind of give you a layout of where everything is in Fusion. So as we're opening up, I'm going to do it hopefully just like you see it on your side. So we'll start Fusion, we'll open it up, and make sure your preferences are right and everything else. And give it just a minute to load. Probably going to be some background noise in these first few videos, just as I get used to. Hopefully as we'll go through, things will get better. Alright, so when you open your screen, it should look like this. Your data panel here, if it's not showing, is these little non-squares. That's going to access your hubs. So we're in the summer 2026. This will be the only one you see on your side. If you do happen to have this little guy, either one of these lit up, it means that you're needing an update. It's going to ask you to do an update once a week or something like that, just to make sure all the buttons are in the same place. If I'm doing something on my screen and yours does not look the same, most of the time it just means that these updates have not been run. You can do them. They usually don't take more than 10-15 minutes, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Alright, so welcome to Fusion. This is the kind of introduction to where everything is day. Today's going to be one of a walkthrough, just showing you what you're going to see on your screen, give you an idea how to start a drawing, how to pick your viewpoints, and then the transition between what we call the sketch screen, which is what you currently see, and the solid screen that you're going to see in a minute. To make sure, let's see here, visual style. Graphics, okay. Just to make sure your computer does not have to work too hard, go down here to this little window screen right here. Down at the bottom it says display settings, and change your graphics to performance. And what that does is the view will not look as good, as sharp in the actual program, but it makes your computer run a lot faster. So if any of y'all are having any problems with lagging, that should help alleviate some of those problems. Other preferences that are going to be in here, I think if we click on your name, go to preferences, and you have these things right here. Just a few I want to check on. I'll go through them quick, but I'll come back to them as we get into it. All those are good. And right now, don't worry about me going too fast through it. I'm just looking for a few things. I'll go back through with you if we need to change anything. Okay. I just changed something in me too. Make sure this one does say Fusion. It should already default to that. This is going to be how your mouse and keyboard function for your shortcuts. This is once you get into this preference screen, just click on General. This is the first part that comes up. A couple things I'm looking for is just to make sure we are in third plane view. It should default to that, but in your drawings later on, this actually won't come into effect until later on in the semester. Just make sure that the drawings look correct. Z up Fusion. Oh, that's good. Okay, here's what I'm looking for. It says first angle. We do not want first angle. We want third angle. So put your preferences in ASME. So go click on General. When you have the drop-down menu, you'll come down to Drawing, and then where it says Standard, yours is probably going to say Inherit from Design. Click in ASME, and what you want to see if you I lost it. There it is. Okay, so we want to be in third angle projection. This, like I said, won't come into play until drawings. We'll go into that more detail several lessons from now. For the most part, everything else should be the same. If I do something on my screen that does not mimic what yours do, meaning like when you press the center of the mouse and it doesn't orbit the screen, there are shortcuts to do it. Just email me and let me know. I will describe what I'm doing on the keyboard as well as what's going on this with the mouse. All right, so anything you change, make sure you hit apply, just so it keeps it. Hit OK. Those shouldn't have to change anything on your screen. All right, so let's just get started on how to use Fusion, what all these little boxes are, how to navigate the screen. Like I said, start off with this is your data panel. Usually when I'm in the design mode, I turn the data panel off. All you have to do is click on these 9 squares right here. This is in the top left corner. So you see data panel pop up. You'll see your hubs. You obviously won't see all of this stuff, but you should see this hub here. What I do want y'all to do for this one is to click on New Folder and then type your name in here. This is going to be your folder that you're going to keep all your drawings in, and make sure you're in that folder as you do your design saves. Anything you do in the hub in this folder, I can see live. That way I can see the way you did your drawings, make sure everything's correct. You don't have to email me, export it, anything like that. We want to keep everything in the hub. So just click on that new folder, create your name once you hit enter, and then as y'all do this, your folders will pop up. You will be able to see everyone else's folders, but you should not be able to open or navigate through them, mess anybody else's drawings up or anything like that. And then make sure that you're in your folder as you do these designs. I'm going to talk about saving here in a minute, and you're going to see those things pop up too. So this is your data panel. This is where all your drawings are going to be. As you draw each one, they're going to pop up over here. You can go back into them. We're going to draw stuff in the beginning that we're going to use for assemblies later and drawings at the end. So we want to save all these in our folders. So once we get that, you're in the right one, you can turn the data panel off. So this way it just gives you a larger screen, more area to work with. Also, if I'm talking too fast or the volume's not right, please email me, let me know. Once we get into the drawing, I'm going to slow down a little bit and go step by step. But anything that we need to improve, because this is my first online class, email me, call me, let me know what's going on. All right, so to get started with the drawing, let's talk about what all is going on this top toolbar, this view cube, some of the things that are on the bottom, and then you'll see what we call the timeline pop up as we do stuff on there. First and foremost, every single drawing, assembly, whatever it is that you're going to make, we need to make sure that we save it. So we notice right here, if you see my mouse is in the top left of the screen, the very, very top bar here says unsaved. That means this is not saved currently. very first thing in every single drawing, we want to save the drawing. So if you go right up above here to the save icon, click on that, and then make sure this says the Drafting 154 Summer 2026 with your name for your folder, and then we're going to title it whatever the drawing is for the day. I'm just going to call this Day 1. Actually, we'll just call it Introduction. I'll give you the names. You'll put them in there. That way I can grade the assignments based on it. But make sure, number one thing, first thing you do, every single drawing is save it. So once you type it in, once you're in the right folder, you hit save, and you'll notice the name has now updated to where it says Instruction. Whatever the drawing is that day will be what pops up here. Make sure that is the first thing you do. Second most important thing are these units. Most everything I'm going to put you in is in millimeters, so we're already there. If you need to change them, you notice there's nothing there now. I click on units, or I don't click on it, I'll hover over it, and then I come out here to this little pencil and it'll say change active units. And if you notice, this little dialog box popped up. Right now I'm in millimeters. I could be in centimeters, meters, or inches. The two we're going to use is millimeters and inches. For right now, leave it in millimeters. If you did change it, notice it says set as default. If you do not click that, then every drawing is going to continue to pop up in millimeters. If you were to switch to inches and want to stay there, you would click this box. For right now, everything we're going to do is in millimeters, so just leave it in millimeters. Since this is not a change, the OK box doesn't pop up, so we're going to hit cancel. And for right now, the first few weeks, first week or week and a half, these are going to be part designs. We will talk about the difference between parts, assemblies later on. If we needed to change this, this is where you're going to change from a part to an assembly to a hybrid. We will go through what those are as we get to those functions. This is just where it's at, and I will walk you through that at a later date. So for right now, part design is fine, millimeters is okay. Make sure your drawing is saved. That is first and foremost on every single drawing. Now, to start a drawing, so notice right now there's nothing on the screen. I can't click on anything. If we hover over here to the top left and see this little green plus sign, it says create sketch. So we're going to click on that, and you'll notice this pops up. So if we think about this in terms of your X, Y, Z planes, so you have your XY plane, your XZ plane, your YZ plane. You can select one of these to start. In the very beginning, when there's nothing on the screen, you'll have to select one of these. Later on, you'll be able to select the face of the object. But for right now, for day one, you're going to click on this create sketch. Once you click on that, this comes up. Now, if we look over here to the right, notice our view cube. So we've got top, right, and front. Depending on how we want the part orientated is going to be what plane that we pick. If I choose this one here, notice this is between the green and the red arrows. This is your XY plane, so it's looking from the top down. And you'll see when I click it in a second, it now orientates that straight to me, and my view cube shows top. So I'm looking straight down on the part. If I wanted to do a front view, I just hit undo, by the way, just so you can see what's going on. We'll go back, hit sketch. Notice that front is on this face right here. So I would click this panel. And notice these little orange panels, as I hover over them, they're going to turn gray as to which one I'm using. So we click on the front. Notice my view cube says front view. Now, if you happen to mess up and you choose the wrong one and later on you need to change that, there is a way to do it, and I will show it to you later. Most of your first drawings is not going to matter. But just to show you where that is. So I'm going to hit undo again. We're going to start at this one. So we're going to go to create sketch. Top left right here under solid. Once I click it, I'm going to select this bottom plane, which is my top view. You can also click top here. Now it's the only one I can see. Click it, and then this is the start of my sketch. Notice once I've done that, the top toolbar changed. This is really important. This is what stumps most people in the beginning of Fusion. Is the toolbar changes as I'm going through the different aspects, whether I'm sketching and modifying or creating an assembly. And they'll get confused. It's like, oh, there was a sketch button here. Where did it go? And you just have to look at which toolbar you're in. This is what's known as the sketch toolbar. So I've got lines, I've got objects, squares, circles, and then there's a whole create menu, different things we're going to go through here. Modify, so creating fillets, chamfers, offsets, trims, extends. We're going to use a lot of those too. Constraints, we're going to go through what those are. Inspect, so we can verify some things. The big telltale sign of whether we're in the sketch toolbar or anything else is this big green button where it says finish sketch. To get back to that original screen, once we create a sketch, we'll hit finish sketch, and then notice my original toolbar just pop back up, what we call the solids toolbar. And notice down here at the bottom, go down to the bottom left, if you follow the mouse on the screen, you'll see this sketch 1. Now, I didn't create anything in the sketch, so it's empty, but if I click on that, if I double click it, it goes back into that first sketch. That's going to be important. I'm going to show you some good tricks and some mistakes that are commonly made when flipping between multiple sketches. And I'm going to start all this back through it. I just want to show you what everything is for the time being. Alright, so number one most important rule, save the drawing first. Make sure there is a name right here in this top bar. Once we have saved the drawing, then we do our start sketch. We pick a plane, and this is where we're going to start from. Second most important rule is use the origin. This is the origin right here in the middle of the screen, this kind of grayish white circle. This is where the X and Y axes, or X and Z, depending on what plane you are, they collide. We want to base our drawings some way, shape, or form around the origin, and you will see why once we get into the assemblies. So we're going to use this point as a start for all of our drawings. Now, first, we're going to start with the line function. I can come up here and hover over it. If you see where my mouse is, I'm moving the mouse up here. This is going to create just a basic line, and notice just below that, I can't move the mouse to it, just below it, it says line, and then in parentheses is L. L is the shortcut. So if I was not hovering over that and I were to press the letter L, notice that I now have a little icon beside my cursor that's telling me it's a line. I will post a shortcut key. There are 26 shortcuts that you will use. I will post them in a PDF at the end of this video. There are quite a few of them that we will use. Line is probably a big one. But you can always come up here and click on these too. Now, we notice we have a line, we have a rectangle, it says 2 point, we have a circle, we have a spline, a fit spline, and then we've got some modifications, mirrors, and dimensions. And then right below this, notice it says create. And if I hover over it, it turns gray. I click on it, and now I have a lot more options. So Fusion, to simplify the user screen, puts everything in drop-down menus. So navigating through those is usually the hardest part in the beginning to figure out where things are. They're usually in drop-down menus. So if I go to create, hit drop-down menu, notice there's line, and then it has the shortcut right here beside it. That's the letter L. And then you have midpoint line if you wanted to draw from middle out to make it symmetric. We don't use that as much, but it is there. Now we get into rectangles. Notice there's a 2-point rectangle, a 3-point rectangle, and a center rectangle. So I have multiple options, and I'm going to show you those on tomorrow's lesson, how to use those too. Circles, got a lot of options here. So we can draw a center point with a diameter, a 2-point circle, a 3-point circle, a tangent to 2 sides, tangent to 3 sides. We'll go through each of these step by step. Arcs, 3 points or center points, and tangents. Polygons, we'll get into what subscribed and inscribed means, circumscribed and inscribed. We will use those when drawing polygons, especially like for the head of a bolt, whether we're going by the flat to flat or point to point. We'll get into those in a later lesson. Ellipses, slots, there's several different slots on here. Fit point spline and control spline, we'll use those at a later on date too. Your text option, when we get into embossing, we'll talk about what the text option is. Mirror, this is a really cool function. We draw something and it's going to be symmetric on the other side. Rather than having to draw the other side, we can click mirror, highlight it, and it duplicates it. That one's really nice. Circular pattern, if I were to draw 6 holes in a perfect circle that are all equally 60 degrees apart, I can click on this and do it really quickly. Same thing with rectangular patterns. We're going to use both of those. And then dimensioning. We're going to use dimensioning a lot too. These are just the ones under the drawing create side. Same thing with modify. So if we look at the next little toolbar here, you see these two little lines is separating the create from the modify. We have fillets, we have trims, offsets, and bend curves. If you click on modify, notice we have even more. So we can do a fillet, we can do a chamfer, and we can do multiple different ways, whether it's equal distance, an angle and a distance, or two distances. We don't use bend curve a whole lot. We're not going to use it probably at all in this training. Offsets when we're going to use, trim we're going to use, extend we're going to use. So we're going to use a fillet, a chamfer, a trim, and extend a lot. And notice trim has a T shortcut. That's going to be helpful later on. Offset has an O. Like I said, there's going to be a shortcut PDF I'm going to send you, print it out, put it beside you. It's going to make your life a lot easier, or at least faster, as we go through this. And I will send that as a later date. Alright, so that was create. That's my lines, my triangles, my shapes. Modify, that's kind of how I can trim them up and modify them. And then constraints is how they're linked together. I know what you probably don't understand what a constraint is, but as we draw them, you'll see how they go together. Coincide, tangent, equal, we're going to use those a lot. Perpendicular, concentric, midpoint. Those are the main ones we're going to use, and we'll talk about what they do. We're going to create parametric drawings, and it makes the drawings a lot faster and a lot easier to modify. So those where the constraints come in, and you'll see why later. Configure, we're not going to mess with much. Inspect, if we want to make sure that the line we drew was the right size or the right angle, this little measure feature right here will do that. Later on, we're going to get into sectional analysis, where we can do like a sectional view, a half section, a full section, things like that. We'll use these. I'll talk a little bit about center of mass at a later date, just as a design feature. We're not going to use it a bunch, but just so you know it's there. Those are the main ones we're going to use out of there. So that's measure, section, and center of mass. Insert we'll get into in a later date, where we can actually put a drawing in, set it to the correct scale, and then sketch over it, and you can duplicate something from a picture. So that's going to be helpful too. And then assembly. So adding to assembly, we're not going to do it in this way. When we change the part design we were talking about earlier, if you follow the mouse to the far left, when we change this to a hybrid later on, it brings up a whole different assembly menu, which is the one we're going to use. Alright, so let's see kind of how some of the sketches go. So you should be in this screen here. If not, then, and I'll tell you what, just to duplicate things for a second, I'm going to go back to the first screen. This is how we started. And I'm going to delete this sketch. You don't have to do this. Delete that. So this is basically starting from scratch. This is that initial screen. And remember, coming over here, this is the solids menu. Notice we got a lot of blue stuff here, and we do not have the green circle over here to the right. So this is the very first screen you're going to see. We'll go over here to create sketch, top left with the green plus. We'll click on it. In this case, it brought up my top view only because I had selected it earlier. You should see this, which is your three views. This is your top-down view, front view, or right side view. We're going to select the top view, which is the orange square to the bottom right. When I click on that, notice my view cube went to top, and that's what I wanted to see. My sketch menu has just popped up, so now I see my lines as opposed to blue shapes. That's how you can tell you transitioned from the sketch to, or from the solid menu to the sketch menu. First thing we're going to talk about today is just drawing with lines and some tips and tricks, I guess you could call it, of using lines. So if we click on the line, notice my cursor now has the little line icon beside it. And remember the second rule that I told you about Fusion is always use the origin. So we're going to start at the origin. If I hover over it, notice the blue box that has appeared. That's telling me I'm locked on to the origin. What I want to show you right now in the next couple minutes is how to use these indicators, these endpoints, midpoints, 90-degree polar offsets. So I have not clicked anything other than the line function up here. I haven't clicked the screen yet. So when I hover over it, notice I got a blue box right where the icon is. That means I've latched on to the 0, 0 origin. Now if I click it once, it's latched on, and notice it's beginning to draw a line. And as I move my cursor, two things pop up. One, what's in blue, the 71.707, is the length of the line. And then below it, if you see the 41.4, that is the degree of the angle. If I wanted to, I could type those two measurements in at any point, and to go between one to the other, you hit the tab button. So right now I'm on the measurement, so the 83. I'm just going to type in 84 so you can see it change. It just changed the meters, by the way. 84. There we go. 84. And now it's locked in. Notice the little lock symbol. If I hit the tab button, now it switches to degrees. And let's say I wanted it at 35 degrees, I type in 35. Notice now when I move my cursor, nothing happens. It has locked this dimension in at 84 millimeters and 35 degrees. If I wanted a line that size, this is what I do for right now, and this is not what I want. To get out of anything, hit escape twice. So right now I haven't drawn anything. I'm going back. This is the start right after we've selected the screen. So I'm going to click on line, or I can click L. Either one will bring it to it. For right now, I'm going to show you the icons because you can see those. So I'm going to go over here to line, click on line. I'm going to hover over the origin. Notice the blue box appears. Now I click it, and there's my line starting from origin. The other big important thing I want you to notice is as I get close to the red line, right about there. Notice this blue little icon that has shown up. It's right below the red line. That means that I am drawing perfectly 90 degrees to the right. This is a constraint, but it's an automatic constraint. So notice there's no degrees. It says 0 degrees. That means I am perfectly parallel to the bottom axis and perpendicular to the vertical axis. As long as I stay with that blue piece highlighted, I'm creating a perfect square. So let's say, just for right now, we're going to type in 100. So that's going to make a 100 millimeter line, and then notice that the blue icon is still there, so it is perfectly parallel to the bottom edge. Now, if I click the mouse, I have drawn a line that is 100 millimeters long and directly parallel to the x-axis. And I continue. Notice it's starting to draw a new line. If I go straight down, if you can look right in the corner right here, notice the blue box that appeared. That means that I am 90 degrees. Exactly 90 degrees from the last line. If I hover directly beside it, notice the parallel lines show up again. That means it's truly parallel. If I go straight up, now it's 90 degrees in the vertical direction. So these are constraints. These are locking it in. And this is typically what I want. So let's say I want to draw a perfect square. So now I'm going to go vertical. Notice my blue square at the corner of where these two lines have met pops up. That means I'm directly at 90 degrees. And let's say I want it to be another 100 millimeters. I type in 100 and I hit the enter key. And now hopefully you're using a mouse, and hopefully you have the roller piece in the middle. As you roll it back and forth, that's going to move your screen. It's adjusting the viewpoint of the screen. The other thing you can do, now that I've drawn this, let's say your screen kind of looks like this, and I can't see the top of the line. If I go over here to the view cube, notice the little house that pops up right here. If I click on that, it'll show me the whole drawing. I can go back and click top, and now everything's visible. But I like mine to be a little bit smaller so I can see the whole thing. Another big key thing is notice that these two lines that I have just drawn are black. That's very important. So I'm going to show you what that looks like if they don't go black. So let's say here I go to the end of this line. Notice that square blue box. That means I'm latched on to that point. Make sure it shows up before you click anything. Click on that point. And then I'm going to draw a line. I'm just going to bring it out here in space. I'm not typing anything in. I'm just going to move it. I'm going to click. And notice this line is blue. This means this is an unconstrained line. The computer kind of knows where it's at, but you didn't specify the length or the angle of this line. So it's saying, I know what you put on the screen, but it's not constrained perfectly. You typically want to avoid blue lines if at all possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit escape. That gets me out of the line. If I hover over it, notice it's turning dark blue, and right click on the mouse, and then this brings up a shortcut screen, and I'm just going to click delete right here, and it takes that away. Now I go back to the line function, top left over here. I click on line. I hover over the end of that line. Notice there's my blue box. Now I click on it, and I want to drag it directly to the left. Notice my measurement of 62.571 shows. My angle is showing 180 from the other side, but notice the blue square right in the corner. That means I'm exactly 90 degrees. That's what I want. So I'm just going to type in 100 and hit enter. Notice it's black. That's good. That means that it's a fully constrained line. I'm going to click on line one more. I'm going to go to that last corner that I just made. Notice it's blue square. I click on it. I'm going to bring it straight down to the origin. And once I hover over the origin, notice another blue box down there. Notice my length is exactly 100 millimeters. I click it, and then notice the inside of this box just went blue. That means it is a fully constrained and closed, meaning that it's an enclosed shape of a square. If I had gone too short, I'm going to hit undo for a second. Take that last line out so you can see what I'm talking about. Notice the inner blue part went away, and let's say I accidentally did not go far enough down. So I went to about here. Notice the line is black because I told it was completely vertical, and it specified a length, but it doesn't close in the box. So if I hit escape here, notice that there's a open piece here, and this does not go blue. I cannot extrude a sketch that's not fully closed. So we always have to make sure they're closed. So I'm going to hit undo. And then I'm going to redraw the line. So we click on line again. Go up to this corner. There's my blue square. I click on it. I drag it down to the origin. Another blue square means I'm locked in exactly on that edge. And now it's a fully constrained square. The reason why you need this to be a fully constrained and a completely closed object is for the next step. So I have a basic 100 by 100 square here, and I'm going to come up here to the top right, if you see the mouse, and hit Finished Sketch. And yours may turn to kind of look like this. I actually prefer that. I have turned that setting off, and I'm probably going to turn it on, but hopefully yours will go to more of this view. And notice when I hover over it, this whole thing will go blue. That's good. That's what I want. So now, because I've hit Finish Sketch, the green circle is gone. And if I look over here, I'm back to that Solids menu. I no longer have the Sketch menu up. And this second little icon, right beside the Create Sketch, there's an Extrude. What that does is take a 2D sketch and turn it into a 3D object. So we're going to click on that. And then it already knows that I'm selecting this square, but if it didn't, you could click inside of it. And then notice if I grab this little arrow, there's a couple ways to do this. I can grab the arrow and pull up, and now it starts becoming a cube. You could also just type in a distance over here. Either one's fine. Notice as I pull the arrow, there is a measurement here. Now I want to make this a perfect 100 by 100 by 100 cube, so I'm going to hit backspace 100 and then hit enter. And notice now we have a three-dimensional cube. And this is kind of what we're going for. Now, this is just the basics of how we go from a sketch to a three-dimensional object. There are multiple ways. We can do extrudes, we can do revolves, we can do sweeps, lofts, ribs. We'll get into those things a little later on. Now, let's say, for instance, that you typed in the wrong measurement. For instance, I want this cube to be, or this piece that we're making to be 100 by 100 by only 20. I'm like, oh, I typed in 100. That's wrong. What I can do is I come back down to this timeline down at the bottom, if you follow the mouse, and notice there's that same extrude symbol. Double click it, And then notice that original extrusion distance pops back up. And let's say I want to change that to 20. Type in 20, hit enter. Now I have more of a plate. Right now, as you see the way the screen is moving, this is called a constrained orbit. There are two ways this may happen depending on what preference you've selected. If you have a mouse with the roller in the middle, a lot of times you can click on it. Mine is in pan mode when I do that. For me to do a constrained orbit, if I hit the shift key and press the middle of the mouse, now it brings up what's called a constrained orbit, and I can turn this thing and see it from multiple angles. It's very important that you learn that trick because you're going to have to do this a whole lot. You can also come up here to the view cube if I want to see directly from the top. Click on top, and then these little arrows, I'm still looking at the view cube on the right up here. Let's say I want to look at it from this point. I click on this little thing, it's going to flip it to a front view. If I click on the one to the right side view, or I can click a corner. So let's say right on the edge of this block, so that's right view, that's the top edge. Notice it'll turn it kind of orthographic projection, or this little corner. I'm going to click on this little corner, and it kind of gives me that home view look. If you get lost, you get turned around, things are all out of whack, just hover over the view cube, the little house pops up, click on the house, and then it's going to bring it back into view. Another thing that's really good about the home icon is, let's say for instance I zoomed out and I just got lost. Oh my goodness, where did my drawing go? I can't find it. Hover over the view cube, wait for the house to pop up, click on it, and it'll bring it back to view for you. Okay, so that was an introduction to using the lines as a sketch, and we created just a short little plate. I want to show you a different way of doing this, so we're going to keep this one here for a second. I'm going to go up here to File, at the very top. I'm going to click New, and then it's asking me, what do you want to do? Do you want to do a part, do you want to do assembly, or do a hybrid? Right now we're still sticking with part, and it's asking me what units do you want to use. You want to use millimeters, you want to use inches, centimeters, feet, etc. So we're going to stick with millimeters, and when we click on part and then come down here where it says create new, and notice I have a new blank screen. The untitled or unsaved, because this one has not been saved, and it's side by side to the one I was just creating, which we named introduction. So if I wanted to go back to that one, I could just click on it. If I want to go to my new drawing, I just click on these are the tabs at the very top. So this one I'm going to, remember, first step, we save. This number one, biggest, most important thing is to hit save. Make sure your units are right. We're in millimeters, that's good. We're a part design, that's good. I come up here to the top, I hit the save icon. Make sure that I'm in the DFT154 summer folder, and your name should appear right here. And then we're going to call this one plate. So we'll type it in, hit save. Notice the top now says plate. And I'm going to draw this in a different way. I'll show you some of the tricks we can use on sketch mode. So come back up here to create sketch, top left with the green plus. Click on it. Notice there's my different sides, my top, my front, my right side. I'm going to choose top again, so we're going to click on this one right here. Notice it goes gray when I hover over it. And then when I click it, the view cube should say top. Now, I'm going to draw the exact same object I drew, but in a shortcut. So if we come over here to create, we click on the create, it gives me a drop down, and I'm going to go, that was a square or a rectangle that we just drew. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over rectangle, and I'm going to do a 2-point rectangle. So I click on this, I'm going to hover over my origin. Notice the blue square appears, means I'm locked onto it. That's the first corner, and then if I drag up and left, notice it's doing both sides of the square at the same time. So on the right of my little square, notice it says 78.056. I'm going to change that to 100. And then don't hit enter yet. Hit the tab button, and it flips to the other dimension where it says 102.562, and I'm going to type in 100 again. Now I can hit enter, and just like that, I created the same square. So at this point, it's fully constrained. Everything's black on the edges, and the middle is grayed out, which means it is a extrudable object. At this point, I can hit Finish Sketch, and then I'm going to twist it just so you can see. We're going to come back up here to the top left. Notice my Extrude button. Click Extrude, and then I'm going to drag it up and type in 20. And notice how much faster we made that object the second time. It's the exact same one we saw from the first image, but I drew it a lot faster. That's where the shortcuts come in with drawing squares and circles and things like that. So those are two methods that you can use. Now we have a basic part here. We have a basic plate. It's 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters by 20 millimeters tall. And I want to put a hole in the center of this thing. So if your view looks like this, do the constrained orbit, which will either be the center of the mouse held down or shift in the center, rotate it a little bit. If you can't find that, come back to your view cube and come down here to the bottom corner just beside the X. You'll see a little blue box appear. Click it and it'll kind of twist it for you just so you can see the top. Now in the beginning we drew a sketch based on the origin, the 3 orange squares that were located in the origin. Now I want to make a drawing on the top of this part. So I'm going to come back up here to create sketch just like I did in the beginning, except for instead of these 3 squares, I'm actually going to click the top of my part. So notice when I drag the mouse off, it's just the basic part. When I get onto that surface, notice it kind of grayed out a light gray. When I click on that, I am now drawing on the top of the part. I'm not referencing an origin or a plane. I'm referencing the very top of the part. So what I want to do is I want to put a hole directly in the center of this part. A hole obviously is going to be a circle, so we come up here. This is a center diameter circle, which is what we're going to use, but to show you there's other options, I'm going to click on Create. Drop down menu appears, hover over Circle. And now I have 5 choices: center diameter, 2 point, 3 point, tangent, 3 tangent. We're going to do a center diameter circle. I click on that. I want to come somewhere in the middle of the part up here, and it's actually doing something cool I wanted you to see anyway. If I want it to be in the perfect center of this, I'm hoping you can see these 2 blue lines that just appeared. If I come down to the bottom of this edge, notice the blue X that appears. It means I'm locked on to the outer edge. I drag it over to get right to the center and notice the little blue triangle that appeared. It's saying this is the center of that line or that edge. If I go straight up from here, notice the blue line that's appearing below it. That means I am directly 90 degrees vertical from the center of that edge. This is really helpful, really useful. If I keep going to the very center, notice the other blue line has appeared, and this is saying this is the point where the 2 edges meet, perfectly center of this square. So if I click on this now, and then I drag my mouse away, don't hold it, just click it, and then let go. And then notice that my diameter is appearing. And let's say, for instance, I want this hole to be 40 millimeters. I just type in 40. I hit enter. And notice there is a perfect circle, 40 millimeters, and it is in the center of the block. Now, the one thing you should see that is odd is that it is blue, meaning it is not fully constrained. If I were to grab this, notice I can move this all over the place. We don't want that. We want it to be perfectly in the center. So the better way of doing this is where your dimensions are going to come in. I want to make it, actually I'm going to show you a different method first. Let's try one more thing. If we go up here to line, click on line, come to the origin, my blue square appears. Now I can click and go to the very opposite side. There's a square box, that's the other corner. Now click it. I have this line appeared, and then if I go about the center, that's the center of the square. Notice the blue triangle that appeared. And then what I want to do is a constraint. I hope this works. So coincidence, coincidence, click on that constraint, click on the center of the circle, and then that that moved it on the line, but it didn't. See, now it's locked onto the line. I can't move it this way, but I can move it up and down. If I go back and draw another line, and then I do another coincide constraint, click on the circle, click on, oh yeah, let me do it. Oh, it's not going to let me do that. This is a method you can use, but this is not the method that I prefer. What we're actually going to do here, I'm going to delete this circle. Notice I do have my two lines. This is the perfect center. If I come back now and click on the circle, so we'll click Create, Circle, Center Diameter Circle. Notice there's a shortcut for C. We'll do the same thing. Click on that, go to the very center, and notice the blue triangle appeared with the X. I click on it, I drag out, type in 40, hit enter. Notice the circle is now black. It knows that that circle is perfectly in the center of that square, which is what we want. And I also cannot move it anymore. But I have these two lines here that I don't necessarily want in the drawing. Notice it's splitting it up. And I'm going to show you this because it's a good example while we're here. Each one of these little blue shaded regions that keep popping up are potential extrusions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Finish Sketch. I'm going to show you this. If I hit Extrude and I click on any one of these shaded regions, I'll click on this one, notice that it will extrude that one part. I just hit Escape to get out of that menu, click Extrude again. Let's say I want to do this part. And I can drag that up. Or if I want to go through the part, notice it turns red. And if I click the other four pieces, drag it through the part, hit OK, I've now made a hole right in the middle of my plate. So extrusions can build on top of it, or they can slice into it. I will show you more about those as we go along. But now I have a hole in the middle. Now, that is a basic introduction to beginning of sketching, mainly how to select the plane that we're going to use or the surface that we're going to use, and then some simple sketches with either drawing a line or using some of the angles and then using like a circle to make an extrusion. So this is a very, very basic introduction to making a sketch. So what I'm going to do now, this is the one I want you to follow along on. That was basically to introduce you to some of the pieces. This next one that we're going to do is what I want you to actually follow along with, and I want you to make this drawing, and this will be your first one for the day, or for the your first design, basically. We're going to create a new one. You will start from the beginning, so I'm just going to go on. You do want to save. You don't really need that. I'm going to save these just so you can see the functions. Make sure once you're done, and even periodically through your drawing, make sure you save it. So hit save. Just going to make sure this one is saved, and I'm going to go back to my introduction. We're going to hit save there too. Once you've saved them, when you exit out, I'm going to go back to my data panel right here, go top left, the 9 little squares, and then notice those two objects are in my folder. Just so that's what we want to make sure we save everything. And I can always go back into them later and modify them if I want to. Now, we're going to turn my data panel off. That's the 9 squares. And we're going to create a sketch from the beginning. We're going to do a plate, and we're going to put a hole in it, just like we did on there. But I want you to follow step by step. So, you're at this screen here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here to where it says Create Sketch, the little green plus, click on it. Notice I have my origin with my 3 planes, X, Y, X, Z, Y, Z. I want to click on that. It's the bottom plane, but it's going to be from the top view. So I'm going to click on it. Notice my view cube says top, so we're in the right spot. Now, what I want to do is go to Create, go to a rectangle, and do a 2-point. Make sure we go down to our origin. And before that, actually, rule number 1, we always want to save. So let escape real quick. I'm going to go to save. Make sure you're in DFT 154 summer and then your folder. Type in plate day 1. Alright, yours will be named this plate day 1. Everyone's will show that, but each one of you will have your own different designs. Once you do that, hit save. Notice it now changes it. You see my mouse followed up to the left. It says plate day 1. My object is saved. I'm in millimeters. We're good to go. Now we'll go back to create. We're going to do it with a line. I actually want you to do it with a line this time, just to make sure we get to that point. So click on line, follow down to the origin, make sure the blue box appears. Once it does, you can click it, drag to the right, and then we're going to make the 100 by 100 by 20 millimeter plate. So we're going to type in 100 and hit enter. Now I can go back up and click on line again. That's perfectly fine. I can click create and I can go to line, but I want you to get in the habit of using the shortcuts. And notice the shortcut for line is L. So if I just hover down here on the screen and I type the letter L on the keyboard, notice it already picks the line up. Hover over the end of the line you just made, make sure the blue box appears, click it, drag straight up, and notice the blue box just below my cursor in the corner has shown, saying it's exactly 90 degrees. It also reads 90 degrees. Just go straight up, make sure that blue box is showing, type in 100. As long as the blue box is still there in the corner saying it's 90 degrees, hit enter. And then I'm going to adjust my screen so I can see. I'm going to type L again on my keyboard. That is a shortcut for line. Hover over this top corner. When the blue box appears, click it, and then drag to the left. You'll notice that it's at 90 degrees. My little constraint is showing in the blue square. Type in 100 a third time. As long as it's there, still at 90 degrees, hit enter. And then L again. Hover over the end of that last line. Make sure the blue box appears, meaning we're on the endpoint. That's called an endpoint latch. Click on that. Come down to the origin. That blue box appears. And then notice that it went shaded. All 4 lines are black, meaning they're fully constrained. The inside is shaded, meaning that I can extrude it. At this point, we can either hit Finish Sketch. And then when you're here, notice that the sketch menu has disappeared because we're not in sketch mode anymore. Right beside the Create Sketch, I want you to click on Extrude. Notice the shortcut for that is E. We're going to use that a lot, so get used to that shortcut. But I'm going to click on it. It's already picking the object because it's the only one on the screen. Grab my arrow. I like to always grab the arrow and pull in the direction I want to go, because what will happen is, let's say I wanted to go this direction. If I wanted to go down, notice it's a negative number. It's still creating an object, but it's now negative. So I like to pull the arrows just to make sure we're going in the right direction. And we want it to be 20. You can just do it with the mouse, or I'm going to type it in as 20 and then hit enter. And now we have our plate. Now for the next part, I want you to go back to Create Sketch up here in the top left. Click on it. We want to select the top of the part, not one of these planes, but the physical top of the part. So notice as I go away from it and on it, notice it changes to a light gray color. If I went over here to the right side, notice the right side turns to a light gray color. Or if I go to the front, I want to be on the very top, so I'm going to come in from the top. Notice it goes light gray. Quickly click it. Man, I can't talk today. And then we're going to draw our circle directly in the middle. Now I'm going to show you a dimension constraint, which is one that I prefer to use. So we'll click on circle. Now you can click on this one, that's a center diameter, that's what we're going to use, or you can click on create, come down here to circle, center diameter. And then what I'm going to do is just put a circle right there in the middle. Notice it's blue. It's not constrained. I didn't give it a diameter. I didn't tell it a placement, anything. Now, what I want you to do is I can move the circle around. I can change the size, or I can move it so it's not constrained at all. Now I can go to create and do sketch dimension. So notice right here in the sketch mode, there's create, drop down menu, come down the very bottom, you see sketch dimension, but notice this D right here. This is the shortcut for the dimension. I'm going to click on it from now. We're going to use D from this point forward. So we click D, and I'm going to click on the outer edge of this circle. And it's asking me, what do you want the diameter to be? And we'll back up one so you can see what just happened. So when I do create sketch dimension, I click on the outer edge. The first time it selected it, notice that the numbers are faded out. Once I get it to where I want it to be, then click the screen again, and then you'll be able to type into it. So we're going to make that a 40 millimeter hole. Type in 40, hit enter. Now, where is it located? I want it to be perfectly centered, so what I'm going to do is if you notice I'm still in the sketch dimension. Right beside my cursor there's a dimension symbol. I'm going to come down here to the origin. Notice the little white dot that appeared. That's the very corner of that object. And then I'm going to go all the way over here to the far right side. Notice that another white dot appears. Click it, and there's the 100. Now it's going to tell me this is a pre-constrained. That's fine. Once I click the screen, it says, hey, this is a driven dimension. It means something I cannot change in this manner. That's what I want. It's fine because I'm going to show you a shortcut. So hit create driven, and notice it's in parentheses. And what that's telling me is, hey, this is the measurement. It's 100 millimeters, but you can't change it. And we're going to talk about that in the next video of how to create a parametric drawing that's easily modified. So I'm going to do that on both sides. Here's the bottom dimension. There's the 100. If I come over here now, I'm still in sketch dimension. Hover over the origin. Click it. Go to the very top. Wait for the white dot to appear. Click it, and then pull to the left. Move it to where I want it to be. Click the screen again. And again, it's saying, hey, this is a driven dimension. That's fine. Hit driven. Now, the reason why we did that is we're now going to dimension where we want this circle to be based on these two current dimensions. So now what I'm going to do is I'm still in sketch dimension. I come down here to the origin. I click on this white dot, and then I'm going to go up to my circle and click on that white dot. And then I want you to notice there are three different things I can do. I can pull over here. Notice that's how far it is from the bottom axis. If I go there, it's diagonally how far it is from the center, or if I push up here, it's how far it is from the vertical axis. The two I'm worried about are the vertical and the horizontal. So what we're going to do is notice that I'm measuring from the left side to center. I'm going to click it, and notice that I could type a dimension in. Now you know that this block is 100. We want the circle to be in the middle, so that would be 50. So I could simply type 50, and that would work. So it's perfectly 50. I'm going to show you a different method of that on the next one. But I need to know that's how far it is from this edge to center. I want to know, or I need to specify how far it is from this bottom edge to center. So I'm going to hit escape for a second so you can see where we're at. Notice if I grab the circle, I can move it vertical, but I have told it to be exactly 50 from the left. So that's locked in, but it doesn't tell me how far it is from the bottom. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click D on my keyboard. Notice that sketch dimension, it's the big D. So if I just click the letter D, it brings up sketch mode. I come down to the origin, hit that white dot, come over here to the circle, hit that white dot, and then what I want to do is pull to the right down below it, and notice that I'm now measuring from the bottom up. Click that. Now, I wanted it to be half of the square. We know that's 50 because this is 100, but what if it were something odd like 89.973? rather than doing a calculation, there's a neat shortcut in Fusion where what I can do is, while this is written blue, I can come over here and click this dimension. And notice it says dimension 8. And if I click the backslash, I think is what this is called, the slash on your screen, and then type the number 2, it's saying take the dimension right here and divide it by 2. When I hit enter, notice it says it's a function. What's neat about this is if I change this later on, if I were to change this to 80, this would update automatically. Whereas if I typed in 50 like this and I change it, it would stay the same. I'm going to show you in a second what that looks like. Or in a minute. Anyway, so now I have my circle. It's exactly 40 millimeters in diameter. It's 50 millimeters from this edge, and it's half the distance from this edge to that edge in the center, which has put me fully constrained. It's black. We're happy. So it's not blue is what I mean. When it's blue, it's not constrained. When it's black, it is. And then when I hit Finish Sketch, I can go up here to Extrude, or type the letter E. Click this inner circle. Make sure the inner circle is blue before you click on it. And then I'm going to take the arrow and push through it, and you'll notice the operation changed to cut, which is what I wanted. And you can either push it all the way through to where it's just past the object. You could specify a distance if you wanted, -20, or I can say all. Either all that'll do the same thing. And then when I hit OK, notice I have a perfect circle right in the middle of the square. Now, this is your first sketch. If you've made it to this far, good. We've made our first sketch. Make sure you hit save. And then if we go to our data panel, you should see this object, plate day 1, now appears. Everything's good and happy. Now I want to show you, if we can, we're going to go back, we're going to modify the first sketch. And I'm going to change this to 80. Hit enter. This to 80. Hit enter. This to 80. You don't need to do this, I just want to show you something. I've changed the original dimensions to 80 by 80 by 80. I hit finished, and now notice that my circle is no longer in the center. The reason why is we chose it to be 50 millimeters from this edge, and that's no longer half. But notice the vertical height is in the center because we told it to be a function of half of this dimension, which is what we want to keep it at. Let's say you missed that on the first go and we want to change it. While I'm in this sketch mode, this was the position of the circle, I'm going to come up here to this 50 millimeter dimension. I'm going to double click it, and then what I'm going to do is come down to this one, click on it, and then again do \2 or divided by 2, hit enter. If I hit finish sketch, notice it's back in the center, but this is now an 80 by 80 square. What's neat about this is called being a parametric drawing, is that if I change any of these dimensions, let's say we wanted to make it 200. 200, enter. 200, enter. And do notice this. Notice the odd shape that's creating because we did it by lines instead of squares. This is things that are going to make it easier parametric later. And then 200. So now I have a 200 by 200 by square. And then notice that my circle is still directly in the center because my dimensions are functions of those dimensions. This is the way you want to be in your drawing. You want to make it as parametric as possible so it's easy to modify. Now I'm going to go back and change it to its original. Hit finish sketch. I'm going to update these back to the original 100. 100, enter. 100, enter. 100, enter. Finish sketch, and then there's my plate. Alright, that's the first thing for the day. I'm going to give you, after this, I'm going to send you a blueprint. So once you've drawn this, you'll submit it in your file. And the second part of this assignment is to sketch a blueprint that I'm going to supply as a PDF. That'll be in Moodle. That one you'll use the same design aspects that we just used and make that object on your own. Alright, if you have any questions, if you had any issues with this, something didn't go right, couldn't find a button, email me, let me know, and I'll walk you back through it. I'll see you in the next assignment.